Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Mac 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And we have two of those right people right here, right now with you. I would like you to have an opportunity to get to know Jim Wilkerson. He's the founder of Wilkerson Consulting. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks
Fellow
for having us.
NAU grad.
Yep.
When we talked on the phone this morning, I'm like, NAU, and we had a couple of people we knew in common, so that was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think we passed each other, though. I was sliding in when you were, putting your hat, your cap and gown on and saying adios.
Yep. Sounds like it.
Yeah, very good. And with us as well, Jim was kind enough to bring a buddy with him, Eric Whitmore. Pronounce that correctly?
Correct. Yes,
very good. And he is the CEO and co-founder for My Biz Coaches. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You came all the way from Chandler.
I did, but I also did my time at NAU as well.
Did you really?
I did.
When were you there?
94 to 98.
He's a
Yeah.
young man.
Just a youngster.
Yes. That we were just talking about how much it's grown, right? I don't know how when
Yeah.
the last time either of you were up there, but it's ridiculous. What'd you say? You said that
Flagstaff is now a suburb of NAU.
So true.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we were there in the good old days, weren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you love it up there?
I loved it.
And did you graduate then from there?
Yes.
Yeah, I loved it up there. And I was telling Jim, I can't get any of my kids to go there. I've got 3 kiddos, two went to ASU. One is a freshman in high school. And I'm quite sure he's not going to pick Northern Arizona University. If they get a baseball program, maybe he would.
Oh, there you go.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, tough to do up there, though.
It is. I think it's really tough. Yeah, skiing and, all the other pole vaulting. We've got a Olympic hopeful back in the day. Is that right?
Long time ago.
Yeah. So I'm curious about that. So did you grow up running track?
No. Well, pole vaulting was in our family. I had an uncle that was a pole vaulter here in Phoenix at North High back in the 50s.
Wow.
And so it was just kind of exciting to me. And there was a picture on the wall of him in my grandfather's house. I used to walk by every day and say, that's pretty cool.
How do you do that?
Yeah, right.
And so you took it up in high school then?
Took it up in high school, did all 4 years, and did all 4 years at NAU as well on an athletic scholarship.
Yeah. And then ended up doing an Olympic camp or something, I think I read.
Well, the way I would describe the end of my career is I got to be the worst of the best, meaning that I could compete at the elite level, but there was always about 8 or 10 guys just a little bit better than me.
But who can say that? Only the elite.
Thank you. But I did qualify for the Olympic trials and laid an egg there and then moved on.
So good. Yeah. And when you were up at NAU, did you do something fun besides what NAU people do?
Yeah.
Drinking at, what was it, the Museum Club?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was actually 24 when I started college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to start a business. And I was in the military. So I had 2 other instances that kind of took precedence over going to college, and it worked out well for me. So I went to college as a freshman in 24. So I stayed at Ridge Hall.
Yes.
Which, for the older people, that's what we called it. Yeah.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
it was a great experience. So I ended up playing intramural sports, like every intramural sport. But at the time, I was a professional kickboxer.
Oh, wow.
So I was actually doing fights while I was going to college for the first year and a half.
Incredible. And what branch of the military?
Army.
For
National Guard, Army National Guard.
For a career? I mean,
8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I started in money for college. That was the intent. And so it just took a longer path to get there.
Yeah.
So.
Fascinating. And how do you two know each other? I don't care who talks. You can talk over each other, but how did you guys come together?
All right. So let's see. I was looking for expanding my biz coaches coaching program, and I have an opportunity to my licensed software to find more coaches that would benefit from the software that we use. The software is pretty amazing. I mean, it allows you to analyze somebody's business in just a short period of time and recognize the opportunities that we can create for a client. And I had been doing coaching without that tool. When I came across the tool, I'm like, this is amazing. Anybody who's doing any kind of business coaching should be using this kind of tool. And I don't remember exactly how Jim and I touched base, but he had reached out to me interested in in doing business coaching. And so we started talking and collaborating. He had a lot of different life experiences. He had financial background and things like that. So super valuable for business owners. So we started talking more and more. And then when I became licensed for that software, we talked about how we could bring him in and he could take advantage of the software as well.
Yeah, it's been great working with him so far.
Yeah. So let's back up a bit. My Biz Coaches, describe that business And you've already talked a little bit about this tool, but what is My Biz Coaches?
So My Biz Coaches, I started out it was about 4 years ago as a consultant, and I was just literally just going into businesses saying, I can help you improve your business. I did lots of years in sales, and so I'm like, I can improve your numbers, I can do this. And it was working fine, and then there was this thing called COVID that happened. You guys
I'm
might
familiar.
remember.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, it created a complete shift, because my initial clients I was really kind of involved in the business, very actively involved day to day on site in the facility. When COVID took place, it was like one of my primary client was kind of like, we don't know what we're going to do. And so we started jumping in, and I'm like, okay, well, damage control, that's my thing, military background. I'm like, okay, let's fix what we can fix. Let's see what's wrong here. So we started digging into PPP and the idle loan. And basically I helped them go from where they were struggling in sales and they weren't happy with their profits to we're like days from going out of business. And so we were able to save that business, turning things around, get them to wait out through the circumstances. They were considered an essential business. So staying in business and running at a deficit was kind of nerve-wracking for them. So I helped them kind of manage that. And then we came out the other side. And then in the process of going through that 9 months of just not knowing what to expect, we were able to, or I was anyway, I came back from it and said, wow, there's, everybody's willing to do business online. People are not just online, but with Zoom calls. That was the big transition. And I'm like, there's something more here. I could be touching base with a lot more clients. I could have, and I enjoyed my relationship. I was still a client today. As a matter of fact, I just left their office to come here. But I could do a lot more and be more impactful to a number of people by using the resources that are available today with technology. So I spent 25 years in the wireless industry. I'm like, yeah, there's something here. We should probably kind of capitalize on this. So I pivoted and moved into doing coaching as opposed to on-site consulting. And that was really what the transition. So My Biz Coach has really kind of evolved out of a need to be able to reach more clients. And in the process of doing that, I recognize I've got lots of skill sets that make me good at what I do. At the same time, I don't have enough to be able to service all my clients. So what if we had an aggregate of really smart people who know different things and different components of different businesses, and we can incorporate them into our suite of solutions, right? For lack of a better term. And so people like Jim, who have financial services background, or other people who have specific, my brother is a coach for us, and he works with, he was 10 years in Massage Envy world as a store manager, or whatever they call it, and then a district manager. And so his experience in the spa industry, which go figure in Arizona, that's kind of a popular thing.
Yes.
But great opportunity for us to bring clients like that from that area, and we bring them in and help them grow and scale their businesses. So we use a lot of the tools that we have to be able to do that.
Yeah. How did you land on this idea?
It literally just a series of conversations. While I was trying to recruit people to use the software, one of the things that I uncovered, I did about 100 different interviews with coaches. And I say coaches, not necessarily business coaches, but I was recruiting for business coaches. And in the series of interviews that we had, what ended up happening was a lot of the people were struggling as a coach to find their own clients.
Oh, sure.
So they're really good at what they did. As many of them were just as qualified or even more qualified than I was to be a coach, from certifications and, whatever, MBAs, doctorates, things like that. But they were struggling because they could not find their own clients because they didn't have that skill set. And I'm like, well, that's a piece of it that I've got pretty well figured out, or at least it's working well for me. Let me bring those people in. I'll help them. They can share in the lead sourcing that we're doing. And then I can incorporate that, and we can use their specialty insights and provide that so we can expand and grow the business.
So if I understand you correctly, if you're working with a company or a series of companies and there's a skill set that they're looking for, you don't have to tell them, well, go find that. I can still help you with this.
Right.
Go find that. You likely have somebody within My Biz Coaches network that can come and tag team with you.
Correct.
And do it as well.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I have a resource of other people that I've worked with over the
Yeah.
last 30 years as well that we can pull in and we can incorporate their
Yeah.
services.
Fantastic. And cellular for years.
Yes. Yeah. A long time.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Cellular,
cellular-
as in phone?
Yeah. Cellular when it was paging.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And the big brick phone.
Yeah. Exactly. I was one of the first
Or
people
flip.
to sell a
Yeah.
brick phone. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. You'll have to ask your brother if he knows Dallas Benowitz, who was one of the original founders for Massage Envy back in the day.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. So fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Let's hear from Jim as well.
Absolutely.
Tell us about Wilkerson Consulting and why this makes sense for you.
Well, at this stage of the game, I was looking for something to get into the coaching industry. And with my background, I've got a lot to offer. And when Eric showed me the platform, I was extremely impressed. And I thought, we really hit it off right away. I think in our first meeting, we scheduled an hour. We went for 3.5.
Oh, wow. It's good when.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that worked out. And then I signed up with him, and he's sort of been my tutor in this whole thing and learning how to use the platform. But what we basically have is the ability to assess a business with 40 different categories if they want to go to that trouble.
Yeah.
We start with 12, and basically we live by the motto that revenues feed your ego, profits feed your family.
Say that again.
Revenues feed your ego, profits feed your family. So what we found that almost every business owner out there is open to talking about ways to find more profits, but most of them don't know how.
Right.
Because they're they got the whirlwind day to day, they've got the overwhelm, and they may or may not have taken the time to stop and actually do a business assessment. So we start with that. And then once that's done, we're able to give them some recommendations. And at that point, they can decide whether or not they want to work with us. Now, if they choose not to work with us on a one-on-one, we've got an online learning academy that they can access as much as they want. And it's virtually, I guess the best way to put it is like getting an online MBA.
Wow.
It's an amazing suite of materials that's on there. What do you think about it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton of material on there. Quite honestly, we find that most people, they get through maybe 10% of it.
On their own.
Yeah.
They probably go in thinking that they want to do it that way.
Right.
I can manage, I can do it. And about 10% of
Yeah.
the way through, they're like, oh yeah, we need some help.
Exactly.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
there is a fee for the Learning Academy, I would imagine. There's a commitment there.
very
Yes, of
very
course.
nominal membership. fee.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's under 100.
And it's kind of done for you. Oh, wow. Yeah. But
Yeah.
done for you and at your pace.
Yep.
And with the business assessment, then I would have already done that. And then I can start engaging in the Learning Academy.
Yep.
Correct.
And we're available if they want to have one-on-ones whenever they choose to.
Incredible.
And in addition to that, we also have a group coaching program. We can bring in as much as 20 or 30 people into a program that would basically serve their needs. So if we have a client, and I say, if you had one result and only one result,
What?
and we could give that to you, what would it be?
Hmm.
And they would say, well, maybe I would like to figure out ways to generate more profit, just as an example. And we have a program for that. Or they might want to say, I need to learn a little bit more about digital marketing in general. We have a program for that. So we fit them into these group coaching programs with peers. And, because it's virtual, we can really engage anybody from
Mhm.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And
Not just Arizona specific, right?
Correct.
We're talking all over
Right.
the country, possibly even outside of the US.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The company we're affiliated with is called Focused, focused.com.
I
And
remember you and I talked about that.
they've got, I don't know, over 1,000 coaches in over 50 different countries. So, and we all collaborate. So if we don't have a skill set that we're looking for, there's somebody we can go to.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And so we find that when people get into this group, they're got a peer-to-peer network, and they tend to stay. They really love it.
Absolutely. We, when you asked me about buy miss coaches, one of the things that really resonated with me is I've had over 14 different small businesses of my own over the last 30 years.
Wow.
Many of them concurrently while I was working a full-time job. And so lots of small business opportunities, coffee shop. I had a Leeds business, martial arts gym, right? Things like that.
Just little things.
Yeah. Relatively speaking.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the things that ended up happening was I had this affliction for people trying to start their own business. And so people would constantly come to me and say, hey, I could really use some help getting my business off the ground. And give them advice. And like, people are asking me these questions. I'm like, I'd love to help you. Right. So it logically just made sense for me to make that transition.
Yeah.
What was ironic though, is I was going through this, I had a partner, his name is Joe, and he and I were talking through, okay, what's our mission here? Right. Because you need to get behind a mission. And so we started talking, and I said, okay, well, my focus is going to be, as we walked through it, I said, I'd like to help people reach $1 million in annual revenue. We had done some statistics, and we recognized that less than 4% of small business owners ever achieve $1 million in gross revenue. Not profits, just gross revenue. And when you figure the average small business is 15 to 20% margin, at $200,000 a year at 20%, that's actually a pretty meaningful income. It puts you in the top 2 to 5% income earners.
Mm-hmm.
So using that logic, I'm like, that's a good target. That should be a target that we focus on, that we help people grow. So it became the $1 billion mission to help 1,000 small business owners achieve $1 million in gross revenue profitably.
That's really clear, right? I mean, that's a clear mission.
And those type of business owners, in most cases, after 3 or 4, maybe 5 years of ratcheting their revenues up 300, 500 to get to a certain level, they almost all stall out somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they realize at that point that they just really bought themselves a job.
Yep.
When they really just wanted to have the freedom and the ability to run their business and make lots of money and have a great life. Yep. That's what we're passionate about, is helping those people.
Right.
Fantastic. Another name drop or connection I want to introduce you to is my dear friend Lisa Rahurick, who was one of those flailing business owners. In the last 2 years, her company is called RFP Success. So she helps people win grants and bids, large government contracts and corporate contracts. Not everybody knows how to write a bid,
right?
Or the proposal to respond to a bid. And her company, you'll love her, and she will really resonate with you guys. She might be somebody that can be a guest speaker or just somebody else in the forum. She's one of those success stories who, just as you described, just kept climbing. And now she's getting ready to, I think, do 2 million this year. And it's been
amazing.
Incredible, right? Yeah. And she will be the first one to admit that she needed coaches and she needed the right people sitting in the right seats to support her for that growth and changing that mindset and then showing up and doing it. I'm quite confident that the assessment would make sense for her too. At some point, I'm sure she did something like that. But for you guys to make that commitment when you work with somebody right out the bat to say, listen, this is the backbone of what we use, and this is where it all happens, puts people in that right frame of mind to say, Absolutely. this is strategic,
right,
and it's deliberate, mm-hmm. and here's where our KPIs are, and here's how we're going to start showing up. I love that. And Jim, you mentioned that there were 12 areas first, and that's how you start with people. And if they want to do a deeper dive, then there's up to 40 different areas. Is that correct?
That's correct. And, when they engage us on a one-on-one, typically, we would actually go to their organization, meet with their team, and run through this assessment with them together. And it might take a couple of days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, we come back with some recommendations that they can implement. And then if they decide to work with us and hire us for a longer term, they have to agree to implement it.
Yep.
So
of course.
We're an accountability partner because they want to at that point.
Yeah. I love that it's the team too, as well, not just whoever is the owner or in the driver's seat as an executive director. It's really having the whole team, because obviously culture wise, we need to have everybody on board.
Absolutely. And that by far and away is probably one of the biggest opportunities when we go into work with a client, is that the owners, they don't want to share their financials necessarily, but that's actually where we start. We're going to analyze what's working, what's not working. My background's in accounting, so that allows me to quickly dive in and recognize there's gaps here we can figure out.
Mm-hmm.
But getting everybody on board is really super important, because somebody's responsible for certain expenditures, somebody else is responsible for the sales obligations, and making sure that everybody's on the same page is super important to make sure that you've got everybody moving forward in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
We also find from time to time, really in a lot of cases, especially with the smaller business owner, we ask them, can you show us your financial statements? And they really don't know anything about them, if they have them at all.
Always.
So in a part of our training in the Online Learning Academy is a financial training program that teaches them what the P&L statement is, what's in it, how it works, the income statement and the cash flow statements. And then we teach them how they can look in there and find ways to create more profits.
And cut expenses as well. That's part of it.
Absolutely. And could be tax strategies that we can help them introduce them to, and then hand them off to a certified CPA or a tax attorney. That would make sense. But it's a lot of strategic analysis that goes into that, and so help them understand, hey, you're a sole proprietor. You should probably be as an LLC, because you'll get tax benefits from that. So helping them understand is super important.
Accounting background.
Yep.
Financial advising background? What was your degree in? Was
My
it?
degree was in earth science.
Oh, well, that makes complete sense.
But I started, I ended up with a Wall Street firm back in 1983. And at that time, interest rates were 14%.
Yeah.
I hope we're not headed there now. It kind of feels that way. But we call it the Volcker years. And I really didn't know much about it, but I learned a lot about bonds and how interest rates work. And at that time, the Treasury bill rate was 8%. So even money markets were 8, 9, 10%.
Right.
So I ended up getting involved with the corporate finance team and the municipal finance team, and I would follow them around whenever they raised money for a company. It made sense for them to work the float. It made sense for them to invest that short-term money. And I helped them and advised them and created those kinds of portfolios and managed them for them.
I can see why the folks that you work with, having you on board with them makes complete sense, right? Just with all the different experiences that you both have had, and of course the broader team as well. What is your greatest joy in being a business coach? Why do you love doing what you're doing so much? And that's a question for both of you.
Just seeing the success. I mean,
Yeah.
and seeing progress and knowing that we're helping them get closer to their goals.
How about for you?
Yeah, I would say having had the number of small businesses I had, having mixed successes, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've also the last wireless job that I had, I helped grow that company. The first year we had 9 stores. We did just under $1 million in gross revenue, and by the time that we sold in 2017, we were doing over $100 million in revenue, and we sold for, I think it was like $82 or $84 million.
Wow.
Now I wasn't an owner there.
Darn it.
Yeah, but I did get a nice change of control bonus. It wasn't enough to retire, but it was a nice little nest egg. But I say that because I've seen the highs and lows of having your own business. I've been on both sides of the fence, and quite honestly, I see the angst and the frustration that goes into. As a matter of fact, I was joking with this with a friend of mine. We, who else other than an entrepreneur would leave a 40-hour-a-week job
To work 60, 70
to work,
hours.
and
Right.
for a fraction of the pay.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. It's like you literally make less when you're self-employed.
Just
most
to not
often.
have to say yes or I will or
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
somebody else. I get it.
So yeah. So for me, it's the reward of helping them fulfill what their intentions were when they started that process.
And help them remember why,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
sit
Sometimes
back
it is. Yeah. It's just this is why you're doing it. I know it's hard. I know it's frustrating, but this is why you're working
and get
through
these
this.
things in the right place, in the right order,
Yep.
and consistently.
Yep.
The accountability piece,
Yep.
and then they can look at you and they know that you've had a big piece of that success.
Yep. We're in their corner.
Yeah.
The whole way.
Yeah, things like systematizing and automating and digitizing things. It's just so taken for granted. I mean, one of the assessments that I did a couple months back is at a law firm out in LA, and I went in and I walked in and I sat down and I interviewed the 19 employees between the two firms. And after I got done with the assessment, now that was a week-long assessment, a lot of employees and a lot of conversations, and I spent a lot of time. I probably interviewed over 10,000 people in my lifetime in the wireless industry, in the sales. So I've got lots of experience. So I interview the people and I help them understand, okay, there's a couple of people here probably shouldn't be here, right? Help understand, because we're not looking at it objectively all the time in our small business.
Sure.
We're trying to deal with the circumstances of the day as opposed to being able to step back. I think it was Michael Gerber with the E-Myth.
Yep. One of my favorite books.
Yeah, absolutely. He was, his thing was you got to be able to, work outside your business or from the outside and looking at your business, right? Working in your business, not on your business, or vice versa. And so it was easy for me to quickly ascertain, despite only having a little bit of insight into the law firm, any law firm for that matter, where all the missed opportunity was. So I didn't even have to have the discipline of the law firm, all right, working in a law firm, just to help uncover missed opportunity from inefficiencies. And for instance, I did an interview with his receptionist for an hour. And in that hour, she took 17 phone calls. Of the 17 phone calls, 8 of them were to make a credit card payment over the phone.
Wow.
At today's day and age, that was what he was
Isn't
paying
that
her
interesting?
$25 an hour or whatever it was to sit there and take credit card payments over the phone.
Instead of, why don't we just send you a link?
Yeah.
Right. Or have it automatic. I finally just went to automatic pay
Yeah,
with my clients,
absolutely.
right? I mean, for a while there, I was doing the manual invoices, and the service that I use had the opportunity for, the auto recurring statements. And I know the next step for me really would be that it just automatically is taken care of and I don't have to, invoice, like it's just all done. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And what an eye opener. And I as you're sharing that story, I'm thinking about that business owner and that one decision feels if you're working in your business on a daily basis, that one decision to free the receptionist up from those payments and figure out which platform to use, what are the cost breaks and, the differences, which one's the best one. For me, those feel like daunting decisions because I have about 12 of those decisions to make. So then none of them get made.
Right.
Right. Or one very slow at a time. So to have a partner, if I could call you guys that, right, to have a coach who's there to say, listen, here's why you want to do this. And quickly you can see it makes sense to relieve her of that responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. The crazy part about that scenario, they already had the software.
No.
They just weren't using it. Yeah. And it was literally, I'm like,
I get that.
I only knew that the software that they were using was capable of doing it because 2 weeks earlier I had met with my first law firm, a much smaller law firm here in Phoenix in Chandler. And I learned about and they have this software program called Clio and they're using it. And I'm like, that has a billing software application. Did you know that? And they're like, yeah, we just haven't set it up. And I'm like, well, how much time do you think we're spending fielding phone calls? 1 hour, I was able to ascertain that information and back into a number that said it's probably costing you $50,000 a year and not use your $10,000 software.
Fantastic.
Crazy.
Yeah. Amazing. Is there anything new on the horizon for you guys for services or products? We talked about the online learning academy. We talked about the group coaching opportunity. What else is going on for you guys that people would be excited about?
Well, we're always looking for joint venture partners.
We briefly talked about that when we met by phone. Yeah.
You mentioned partnership. We're a partnership with the company owner, and we bring in partners as needed that have special expertise, such as marketing people, maybe an attorney, accounting, etc. Just to give you an example, I just established a relationship with a business broker. Now, business brokers get calls all the time from guys that say, I want to sell my business. And they come to realize after the first meeting that the business broker has to say, you know what, I'm sorry, but your business is unsellable. Yeah. It doesn't have any value. And so what we talked about was us going and doing presentations together. And I could actually teach these guys what they needed to do to get ready to sell. And then they could come back and do the deal.
What a great example of partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who else are you looking to align with?
Accountants are great too. As far as that goes. Digital marketing is needed in any business that you have now. I'm looking for probably one more in that area.
Okay.
Would be good. Business attorneys that understand how to draft documents like business plans.
Yeah.
And draft, subchapter S documents, et cetera, and trust documents.
I just had an appointment this morning with a financial advisor, not your traditional retail financial advisor, but somebody who especially deals with particularly business owners. Perfect client for me, or client opportunity for us to be able to collaborate, because he can come in and give the financial understanding of their circumstance.
Yeah.
Particularly if their business isn't sellable. He literally shared the same story that Jim just did. He's like, yeah, I had to tell my clients that they didn't have a sellable business, and they're like, well, you're not a broker, so you don't really know. And of course, then it was they reach out to the broker, and the broker's like, yeah, I'd love to represent you, but you're not there yet, and that was the conversation. And so they were kind of frustrated, but after they got the insight, they went back to the gentleman I met with earlier, and he's like, I didn't want to say I told you so, but
but here we are.
Yeah. And so, now he mentioned to me, he's like, I'd love to be able to refer you to them so you can go in and help them come up with a strategic plan over the next 18 to 36 months to prepare to sell.
Right.
Yeah. And the win-win there is that the financial advisor makes his money managing money. So if the company is making more profits, he's got more money to manage.
Right.
And there's an interesting piece there. There's multiple ways you could play that, and Jim probably speak to it better than I can. But the one thing that they educated me on was, you get the windfall if you sell, right? You have the windfall, and then how you can invest that money. But then the secondary play could be if you are 5 years from retirement and you really haven't put a ton of money aside, there's different financial strategies.
Time to start doing it.
You could pull it out at an accelerated rate by having the right defined benefits plan.
Correct.
That would allow you to pull out large chunks and set it aside. And then when it comes time to sell, even if you're not necessarily in a position to sell like at a normal, like a 3 or 4x multiple or something like that, you could sell to existing employees, could sell to family members, you could sell to, and you would be willing to finance it now because you're not looking for the big windfall. You've already set the money aside in your retirement fund.
Yeah, I had a client that fit that bill exactly. They didn't have any money saved. They were about 60, very successful business, very small staff, engineering company, and they set up a defined benefit plan. and they literally funded their retirement with well over close to $2 million a piece over the course of the next 8 years by pulling that money out of their company, the profits, and it's actually a tax deduction as well. And then they actually sold the business to their employees for $1.
And legacy, right? I mean, many, at least my familiarity with business owners is we're doing it because we have a passion and a purpose and a mission for something, right? You spoke to what your guys' is. And so someone who has put blood, sweat, and tears into and that their employees have become family and they're getting ready to exit, how brilliant for them to sit across from you guys and have that realization that there are other ways and smarter ways to do that, and they can leave a legacy for their family and or their employees and still benefit. Everyone wins.
Right.
Absolutely.
Wow.
They hadn't prepared, they hadn't saved, and this basically saved their retirement.
Right.
And sometimes with the right conversation, that's actually the better solution, because lots of times that, you mentioned legacies. One of the challenges that I run into is a lot of business owners are, I'm going to give it to my kids. Well, my experience has been, generally speaking, that was the kids since they were 5 years old have been working, with you on the weekends
Yep.
and the summers and missing vacation time or missing ball games or whatever it was that happened, right? That played out, and now they have no affliction for that business.
I don't want to be a financial advisor or engineer. Or
I
whatever
don't want to
yeah.
do anything with the business, let alone
Yep.
take it over when you're ready to move on. And so creating other strategies that allow them to have the flexibility to make those adjustments is key. And, most people don't think about it till they get to the end, right? Which is one of the bigger problems,
It's fascinating. We have many conversations like this, and no matter what the industry or the vertical that we're talking about, if it's business ownership, we often hear that, myself included, that we start a business, we get in there and we're doing the grind, and we haven't worked with the end in mind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the best things I learned from the CEO of the company that we sold was that, he got started with the end in mind. 5 years before we sold the business, he was already courting the person he was going to sell it to.
Smart.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else did you come prepared to tell us? Is there anything else or a story that you want to share that?
I would say, Jim mentioned the coaching platform that we have available, and we're putting together programs that allow us to do group coaching. We like to call it mastermind coaching because we're incorporating everybody's different perspectives. But we did that so that we could be more affordable to more small business owners.
Of course, as opposed to starting off right one-on-one, if someone's not financially
Correct.
ready for that commitment, then they can do the group
Right.
coaching.
Or even time commitment, right? In the beginning, I can at least, get some general insight, and it's an extension from the e-learning platform, which is great, except for if you don't have the discipline to go and watch the videos, which is what we're recognizing.
Yes.
We create a platform where we kind of force you. It's kind of like a book reading club. Every week
Here's
you
the
show up.
subject. Here's the topic.
That's it. Yep. Every week you show up and we rehash it. We go through it and we verify that everybody understands the content behind it. And then they're gaining that insight and that knowledge. And then ideally the idea that they recognize, hey, I need to make the leap, because a part of it is familiarity. As they get more familiar with you, one of my biggest obstacles with not for me selling my services, but for other coaches selling their services, is that you're trying to show what you can do for them in a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes in a networking event or whatever that is that you're trying to establish that relationship. So super hard to do in a small window, but give me a few sessions and all of a sudden the doors start opening and you recognize all the different ways that we could probably help you. Right. And not even just me. Jim could step in. We could have somebody else, like my friend Lloyd, step in, or Todd step in, or whatever. And we have these other coaches that can offer that additional insight.
And you both highlighted the fact that while you have some of the experts in the room in these small group coaching sessions, you really are encouraging all the business owners who are there to learn and grow to give their 2 cents as well. It's a mastermind as much as it is that they're coming to get what they need. Of course, those are very impactful.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We facilitate it and try to engage everybody. If the conversation gets slow, we'll start asking questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are online. And in addition to in person, you do any in person, or they're all online so that you can have everybody coming from wherever they're coming from?
We haven't done much in person, although honestly, I would love to do that. Quite honestly, it's been this year has been the first time that's
finally
really
we can start doing it
exactly.
again.
So with that, I would love to do. As a matter of fact, one of my clients, a digital marketing agency, younger guy. He's one of my clients for a couple of years now. He's actually grown from 375,000 to he's going to do $1.5 million this year. So in the last couple of years. And a lot of it is, for me, with him, isn't necessarily, it's not marketing, right? He's actually done a pretty good job of that. It's interpersonal management. He's never been a leader right? So he's learning how to lead, he's learning how to manage his people, and there's all those things. So I can bring that to the table. Anyway, the conversation turned to, well, how can we take some of your knowledge and put that out there to his clients or other people? So we're talking about doing a workshop where we would meet once a month. And it's kind of with the economy where it's at right now, it's kind of sputtering. It's not really moving forward. And we're talking about doing, how to really turn your business around when things are tight. And so we do a regular speaking conversation. So we would come in, Jim would come in. We have some other speakers that we're talking about bringing in and actually sharing that. But that would be a live forum. He's got a facility in Tempe where they got room for like 50 or 100 people or something like that.
And that's where the joint venture partnerships could come into play too. We bring our clients, they could bring their clients, and it turns out to be a networking event as well.
Yep. It's a free opportunity to get some financial business education. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. You're up to good stuff. Did we talk enough about the financial training for business owners in your network?
I'm happy to go into it a little deeper. As an example, we used to talk about the profit and loss statement. There are 5 categories in it. There's revenue, there's cost of goods sold, there's gross profit margin. This is up 7, net profit margin, and overhead. But the only things that you can really control in there are 3. You can control your revenues, you can control your cost of goods sold, and you can control your overhead. And when they start to really get a handle on what is involved there, what they have at that point, and a lot of times we need to help them get to that point by just reviewing old records and going back through their books to get them up to speed. Then we can start saying, well, what if we cut, like Eric was talking about, the overhead for the receptionist? This is a perfect example. Now, how does that change the numbers? It can be drastic. I mean, a very, very small change in reducing your cost of goods sold. Maybe you find a different supplier that gives you your product a little less if you're making widgets, as an example. That can drastically change the bottom line as well. So we run through a bunch of different scenarios with them on that. And the income statement is the same way. The income statement basically shows all the money that's come in and goes out. Now, that's the cash flow statement. It comes in and goes out, and we can analyze that in several different categories as well to help them find ways to take a look at what they have going on, and they can find more profits.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I think that, and Jim referenced it earlier, but a lot of times small business owners struggle with the financial component because they don't have a background in accounting. They don't know. And I'm going to
it's math.
I should be raising my hand right now. Yeah.
And I'll take a light stab at accountants, and no knock on an accountant but most of them are trained to do tax returns. Yeah, they do. You come in with your shoebox of receipts and you give them your, and here's your taxes and everything's, well, accounting by design is you're looking back at what you did. You're not looking forward at what you do. And what you really need is you need a financial analyst to look at your numbers from what you did from the past that the accountant put together for you and project out and say, okay, well, next year you're expecting to have a $200,000 profit. Well, how can we reduce your tax exposure? What could we be doing with that capital, right? What else could we be doing with capital? Do you want to create a benefit program for the employees? Do you have some capital acquisition, some equipment that you want to purchase, right? But that takes strategic thinking. You have to do that in advance. You cannot do that in arrears. Right. Once the money's spent, the money's spent. Once the year passed, the year's passed.
Where taxes is just that. It's the end of the year and it's what we owe.
Always looking back.
Yeah, so I'm hearing you say it's really needs to be at least 2 different tracks, right? One is the tax conversation, planning and preparing and knowing where you're at. And equally important or more so important is everything that you've described around the financial conversations and projections and goals.
Exactly.
Versus oops.
Yep. A lot of that comes out in the assessment that we do as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So our assessment tool is called the Profit Acceleration system, profit acceleration software. And as I said, you can either start with as few as 12. Sometimes we just end up with 2 or 3 and they see so many gains right away. They go, that's enough. Let's just focus on that for now. And so once they do that, then they're able to get a better picture of what needs to be done going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But the profit acceleration software was put together by, I don't know how much money they spent on it.
$2 million.
Focused. Yeah, $2 million.
Wow.
And, 2 years basically to put this thing together. And it goes through 460 million algorithmic calculations to come up with these numbers. It's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Wow. I'm looking forward to getting to know both of you better. We've already had a conversation about the possibility to do some work together. So hopefully we'll get to continue to do that.
Happy to.
Where do people stay in touch? You're both on LinkedIn?
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
I am. Yep.
Okay.
Both on LinkedIn. We both have our own websites.
Yeah. Can
Yep.
you share your websites then?
Yeah. So mine is mybizcoaches.com.
Easy.
Yeah.
My Biz Coaches, B-I-Z.
B-I-Z. Yep.
Coaches.
Coaches. Yes. Yeah.
Very good.
And mine is mybizcoaching.net.
Okay. Very good. Mybizcoaching.net.
Didn't want the brand to be that much different.
Right. No, that's good.
We are partners.
Yeah, I love it. Wow. I'm looking forward to hearing more. And I have some ideas. So
Excellent.
as well as some introductions. I think Lisa or Herc would be a great introduction for you guys as maybe one of those partners on the outside there.
Always looking to collaborate.
Yeah, good.
You
And
betcha.
so LinkedIn is a great place to stay in touch. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask. So our listeners, right, we're hoping that we introduce you to a handful of people that might be curious and want to get to know you guys. What is the first step for a business owner and or a partner? Are they just reaching out on LinkedIn or through your websites? And then what does it look like? Is it a phone call? Is it a discovery session?
Yeah, the best way is to go to the site, or you can just go to, you can send me an email directly at eric@mybizcoaches.com. And I'll send you a Calendly link. You can schedule an appointment, and I do a 45-minute consultation. We can do it either in person or over Zoom. Through that consultation, typically my spiel is I'm able to usually uncover $100,000 or more in incremental revenue without spending money on marketing or advertising. So, and it's
Wow.
yeah, and that's literally to Jim's point earlier. That's just the Jumpstart 12. That's the initial 12 components of the business. And so what we do with that then is I'll pick the 2 or 3 highest return, and we'll focus on that in the first 90 days. So the whole idea is to get them a return the first 90 days from the effort, the time that we put in.
Yeah, we want to give them a solid ROI on our coaching fees.
Right away.
I can almost guarantee at least 400 or 500% the first year if we based on what we've uncovered and if they implement.
It is so unusual for a business coach to say that. I mean, those are bold statements, and I have no doubt that you mean business when you say that.
Yeah. Well, it's the numbers,
right?
At the end of the day, if you just look at the numbers and you project out the numbers, we can show how we can do it because we have the old data and we have what we're going to project out, so we can
track it and focus on it.
Then
and
it
go
just
in.
comes down to the activity, right? You're going to do the actions that you need to take.
Yep, no results, no fee.
Yeah,
That's our guarantee.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. And thank you both for sharing your time and your wisdom with us today.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
Yeah,
us.
the
really incredible. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center in Tempe, Arizona. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.